know that the statistics show that graduates of predominantly black colleges and universities earn 20% more than black students who finish predominantly white colleges. And that's a heck of a number. But he'd be very pleased at that. But he'd be somewhat disappointed that our state legislators do not fund our historically black colleges like they do the William and Marys, the VCUs, and the Virginia Techs. You know, Virginia State held its first capital campaign back when I was on the Board of Visitors. And I was director of the university. Even though I went to Norfolk State, they allowed me to sit in Virginia State. Although when I went to Norfolk State, the first 2 years, it was a division of Virginia State. And so black colleges, like white colleges, must reach out in the larger community and raise extra dollars because the state budget doesn't pay for everything. So they asked me to lead a capital campaign to raise $10 million by December 31st of 2001. On November the 1st of 2001, I presented the university $11.6 million capital campaign total. And we had people who funded the university that had never been on campus. One of the gentlemen that I had dinner with last night, my friend and I, owned Great Coastal Truck Lines. He is the brother of Robbie Estes, who owns Estes Truck Line. He is one of the 100 richest men in Virginia. He gave $1 million to Fort Union to build a field house just to name after his wife. And so I was having lunch with him one day, and I was asking him about Virginia State University. He said, well, I've never been on the campus. Now, at the time, he was 78 years old. And he said to me, you know, I'm thinking about getting married because his wife had just died. And he said, you want to see a picture of my girlfriend? I said, sure. Why not? We eat barbecue and French fries and onion rings. He's eating my French fries, I'm eating his onion rings. This guy never met me before, had just met me that day. He showed me the picture, and I recognized the young lady as being a member of the Hopewell Rotary Club. And I said, I know her. He said, you do? I said, sure. I said, Susan thinks I'm crazy. She comes to the meetings and just sits beside me every time when she has to make up. He said, you think I ought to marry her? I said, well, both of us are going to get old. And one day, you're going to need somebody to look after you. You ought to marry her. He said, will you come to the wedding? I said, you're going to have chicken wings. I ain't coming if you don't. And I went to his wedding. It was awesome. He gave Virginia State University $30,000. And we asked him, can we name a room after you because of that? He said, no, they have to name it after you. So in Foster Hall, there's a room called the M.D. Stith Executive Conference Room. He gave $30,000. I went to another donor. His name is Bill Dillon. I don't think he minded me mentioning his name, but in that first campaign, I asked him for some money. He too had never been on the campus. He said, but, you know, I know you, so I'll make a contribution. So 2 months went by, and I said, Bill, are you still going to make this contribution? He said, yeah. He said, how much should I give? I said, well, you know how much you're capable of giving. And here's a guy who, him and his buddy, bought AMF Bowling some 20 years ago for $250 million. 10 years later, they sold it for $1 billion to Goldman Sachs. Okay? He's building an engineering building at Virginia Tech now. And I don't know why the guy ever liked me from the first place, but he did. And so he said, how much should I give? I said, well, I'll just tell you what the youth rock boys are giving. I said, they're giving $100,000. He said, well, I'll give $100,000. So he gave $100,000 to the campaign. Never been on the campus. Never been on the campus. A year or so ago, I went back to him again. He said, okay, Pete. He said, I know exactly what you want. I'll give you the same thing I gave you last year, the last campaign. I said, can we negotiate? He said, okay, give me your best game. I said, look, I said, the wealth in the black community has not achieved the same status as the wealth in the white community. So black colleges and universities must depend on the generosity of philanthropists like yourself. Will you give $200,000? He said, I'll give $200,000. He said, how long did I make my last gift? I said, 5 years. He said, can I do 10 years? I said, will you do 8 years? So every December the 15th, $25,000 goes to Virginia State and will go for the next 5 years. It will be 8 years and will be $200,000. The funds generated from that will give scholarships to our students. So I think Martin would be happy that those kind of relationships exist, because that helps educate our young people, just like the Prince George investment does every year. He would be pleased that in the areas where we traditionally have not had opportunities, we're getting opportunities. We're doctors, we're astronauts, the best brain surgeon in the world, the first one to ever perform the dissection of Siamese twins was Dr. Ben Carson of Johns Hopkins. My doctor, who replaced my knee, that I put 3-in-1 oil in every once in a while, Dr. Mark Jones, you can't even get in to see him, he's so busy. I know. Yes, sir, I put a little 3-in-1 oil in that thing every once in a while. I can tell you when the weather's going to change, too. But he'll be very pleased with that, but he'd be disappointed of the unemployment in the black community. And you know, black people have always worked. Even during the Depression, we had jobs. But you know what? We never said what job wasn't good enough for us. We said, as my daddy told me when I worked in the fish market in Philly, boy, if they're paying you, giving you a little fish to take home on Friday, you work there. I said, is the mule dead? I said, well, I want to come to the funeral, and I want to say the benediction over that mule, and see if his teeth still good, because you might have to use a few of them. But we've always worked. Always worked. Unemployment, 16 to 17% for our young black folks. Just don't make any sense. And there are jobs out there. I've always felt in my heart that I don't care what the unemployment rate is, will be. I always felt that if you wanted to work, you could find something. You know, I always believe that. And I've never been unemployed more than 30 days. And then I'll just chill it back. You know, I believe because we know how to work. We built this country. Okay? So I think he would be very, very, very disappointed. And it's all about respect. I have a brother, a baby brother, who finished Hampton. He works on Wall Street. He's, at age 42, he's the first millionaire out of the group of 10 kids. One day we were having a little session up at Wintergreen. I had on the condo, so every Thanksgiving we'd invite our family up, brothers and sisters. It was 10 of us. I lost a brother who finished Virginia Tech. He was trying to save a young officer's life and got caught in a secondary explosion. He died as a first lieutenant at age 24. But there's still 9 of us still living and in good health and got great teeth. But my brother was sitting there, he was working for Bank of America at the time, and he was boasting about how he was not going to call the CEO Mr. And so I just listened to him for a while. And so, as it is at Wintergreen, nobody knows where anything was with me, so they always sent me to get stuff, the ice, the sodas. And so I asked my brother to ride with me. I said, get in the car. We rode down, I said, look, I said, I heard what you said. I said, I understand where you're coming from. I said, but Bank of America don't need you because you're a black person. Okay? I said, they can get a black guy off the streets drunk, clean him up, put him in an $800 suit, and say, sit at that desk and don't even blink. Okay? I said, they hired you because you got talent. I said, but more importantly, it doesn't matter whether he's white or not. Your mother taught you respect. I said, my boss is 2 years younger than me, but in every meeting, he is Mr. Ramsey. Now, when we go get in the truck to go to lunch and buy a hammer we don't use, I'm going to call him Lane. He's going to call me Pete. But he has yet to tell me, you don't have to call me Mister. I said, David, he built Bank of America from the ground up. He deserves to be called Your Excellency if he wants to be. And he's giving you a job where you're making tons of money. I said, you need to remember that. That's all I said to him. 6 months later, he called me, hey, I got a promotion. I said, yeah, what happened? He said, I started calling him Mister. It worked. It worked. It really worked. It really worked. Hell, I think Martin would be real pleased with the new health strategies that we undertake now, the new surgeries that are going on, extending people's lives 10 and 15 years. I just buried a 103-year-old aunt 2 weeks ago. My Aunt Jenny was tough as nails. She didn't have a wrinkle on her face. And at age 97, her Doberman that she had raised from a pup attacked her, threw her down on the ground, and was mauling her. And I visited her the next day in the hospital, and I said, Aunt Jenny, how did you get that dog off you? Well, she said, I reached up and grabbed his collar and said, sit. Now here's the interesting thing about that. Y'all know in the country, we rarely put collars on dogs, unless it was hunting season and you wanted that blue tick back, okay? But usually you let them run without collars because you don't want them to get caught up in your fences and bushes and stuff like that. And so the fact that she had a collar on that dog was significant. But I said, how did you have the presence of mind to reach past all those teeth that are capable of crushing at 900 pounds per square inch? I said, how did you manage? She said, I reached it and I said, sit. Then she said, I got up and I ran back to my trailer and I beat him there. And then she said, you know what, nephew? She said, I ain't never owning anything with 4 legs again. She said, as soon as I get home, I'm going to throw the kitchen table out in the backyard. My kind of genius. I said, just 30% of what you got on there. But you know, I sat and watched an open heart surgery. The doctor, I'm on the HCA board of directors. And Dr. Sacco, noted cardiologist, let me watch a triple bypass. And I could have reached over and gotten that guy's heart if I wanted to. Didn't want it. The intricacies of those operations is just mind-baffling. And that is what is going on in our community. So he will be really, really pleased with that. But he will be saddened that so many of our diseases that are killing black people, heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, colon cancer, are preventable. A cancer doctor told me once that 85% of the largest cancers, they can cure if they get to them in time. I went in for a double knee replacement, both knees at the same time. I told him, I said, I'm in Marine, you don't have to give me no knockout juice. Give me a fifth of whiskey and a nail and just go to work. But they tried to put me out, and they lost a little piece of the plastic in my back. And so they took me out of the operating room and brought me back, put me in an MRI to try to find this thing. Well, they couldn't find it, so they rolled me back out and they said, well, Mr. Stith, we couldn't find it, but what we found was some carcinoid tumor on your small intestine. It was a spot on your liver. I said, well, there's no good sense sending me home. Just take me down to the funeral home, put me in a good-looking suit, and I'll just hang out until I go away from here. They said, well, we don't think the carcinoids really kill anybody, maybe 1 to 2%. I said, I'm in that 2%. You got to take it out. Well, they went in and they found 4 or 5 carcinoid tumors. They were cancerous. And so they took a foot of my small intestine, and as I tell my mama, a foot of my big chitlin. And I went down 50 pounds. But boy, you ought to see me buying suits, ties, and shirts. I got good looking all over again. But they were able to catch it. And 2 months ago, I was declared cancer free. And we got people. got people amongst us who won't go to the doctor. We lose 30,000 black men a year smoking. 30,000. And so you say, now I understand why 70% of black females are alone. There's nobody to choose from. And my mama got a boyfriend. Mama 85. Boyfriend 78. She tell my mama I told her. My mama's a cooker. Won't tell him her age. That's why you worry. You got all your teeth. But he is just darling to her. He really is. And so men, we got to do better about our health. You know, so you may hear something you don't want to hear, but you may hear it in time that you don't have to worry about it after a period of time. So we got to do better about that. And you women who starting to act more like men are having more heart attacks than you ever had. You really are. So we all need to take care of ourselves. Our birth rate in Petersburg, newborn births, 7% of them unwed mothers. Martin Luther King would not like that. He fought too hard for other things. Crime, then I'm wrapping this up. I think that he would rejoice that major crime is on its way down across the United States. And people got all kinds of reasons for why that is happening. But if you celebrate the fact that a metropolitan city had 50 homicides last year, but only 25 this year, yeah, that's a reason to celebrate, but why even 25? Why must we continue to kill each other? The Ku Klux Klan is out of business because we are doing what they were designed to do. They don't even have to do that anymore. We're killing each other faster than we can be born. Now, when you take the fact that when someone commits a homicide, someone goes in the ground, someone goes in jail. You take the number of young black males who are being killed in war. You take the young black males who are dying from drugs. You take the young black males who may be dating and marrying in other cultures. You take young black men who are not taking care of themselves. When you add all of that up, see how many you have taken out of the system where a black woman could have as a mate, as a husband, as a boyfriend. We have just got to do better. I know that Martin would be very saddened at this. My solution to it is twofold. We need to send every 18-year-old male in the inner cities to a tobacco farm in August. I'm going to tell you something. That'll work. I worked at the tobacco farm one year. My dad made a deal with his buddy that didn't benefit me. It benefited my father. Bless him, I love him. My dad used to cut our hair. Y'all know this, but them old clippers, right? Them clippers would pull half of the hair out of your head. And then when I say ouch, my dad would reach down and get some 3-in-1 oil and put it on the clipper. And as I got to be going, I said, how can oil sharpen metal? I don't understand that. But he had a buddy who had electric clippers and really knew how to cut hair. So he said to his buddy John, I'll let them boys come and work in your tobacco fields over the summer if you cut their hair for free. Well, his buddy jumped on that, and my daddy was happy about it, and me and my brother was saying, we just got shafted. You know, y'all work in tobacco, you know how hard it is. You get a kid down in that tobacco farm in August, where underneath that leaf was about 390 degrees, yeah, he or she won't have any strength to go out and mess with anybody. The other thing, I think those bring back the draft. That's my personal opinion. Because let me tell you something. Dr. General Al Short, graduate of Virginia State University. Virginia State University put more black generals in the Army than any predominant black university in the country. General Al Short was the highest ranking black general prior to Colin Powell picking up his first star. He was a graduate of Virginia State University. He was about 6'8". Now, show you how bad he is and how tough he was. They have a system in the Army that, or in the Air Force, that if you jump out of your aircraft with a parachute and it doesn't open, first of all, I can't understand why anybody jump out of Perkins with a good airplane. But for those who choose to do that, if you land on another jumper's chute, what you do is you get up and you walk across it and you jump and pull the second ripcord. And that's what he did. That's a bad dude. You know what I'm talking about? I do not want to meet him in a back alley, even though he was in the Army and I was in the Marines and I still outrank him. I just don't want to ever meet him in a dark alley. He's bad. But he gave a report one time at one of my breakfasts that showed that when the draft was in place and black Americans represented 10% of the general population, they only represented 20% of the prison population. 10 to 15 years later, when African Americans represented 12% of the general population, they now represented 40% of the prison population. Because what happened? Farm boys like me, that were not college bound, we went in the military. And folks from the inner cities, like those bad kids, they went in the military. And they became good Americans. They became patriotic. They had a skill when they came out. I would advocate that, but some people may not like that, but that's the way I feel about it. So, I think that if we have a way to reduce crime, I think we'll take every advantage we can. Because I tell you what, if they put them on the farm or put them back in the service, we could tear down half the prisons in this country. Finally, black wealth is on the rise. We have tremendous millionaires being made every day with our athletes and with people in corporate America. I think that Martin would be really happy about that. I think he would question, what are you doing with your money? You know, are you giving it back to the black community? You know, I met with the young man, Aaron Brooks, who was quarterback for New Orleans Saints the other day, and he's given back a lot down in Newport News in the inner city. That is what Martin Luther King, I think, would want. And he would be very proud of those athletes who do that. Now finally, I think that he would be elated that we've had a black governor, Doug Wilder, and the capital of the Confederacy, to be followed by New York and then Boston. I think he'd be very pleased with that. I think he'd be very pleased that Barack Obama, in our lifetime, as a black president, and could possibly be a second-term black president. But I think what Martin would be really saddened is that in none of these cases have we put anybody in the lineup to follow us. There was no identifiable black politician when Doug Wilder was governor that could have stepped in after he left or ran a good campaign in Virginia. And I don't know that even nationally speaking, there's someone who is a Barack Obama kind that could follow him other than Colin Powell. And I think that that's what Martin would be really, really saddened at. But at the end of the day, I think that Martin would be generally pleased because I think Martin would see that there is an opportunity for us to make this a better place to be. So I thank you so much for inviting me here this morning.
Okay. Not only am I proud to stand here and say that I'm friends with Dr. Millard Stith,